We've just found out some brand new information regarding Project Motor Racing. We have a new trailer, a release date, more information about career mode, and modding in a way that you may never have seen before. I think let's first touch upon the release date, because that's quite straightforward. 25th of November this year, Project Motor Racing is coming. But for those watching this video who maybe don't know that much about Project Motor Racing, Tom, why don't you give us a quick summary of what the game's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, 25th of November 2025 is the release date for Project Motor Racing. That's not early access or a beta, although we'll touch upon towards the end how we can play it early and how they are getting some early feedback. This is on PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X as well, which is very key for a sim racing title to launch across console and PC at the same time. And also, Project Motor Racing is a spiritual successor to Project CARS, and also the GTR games, which are from the early noughties, and Project CARS from the 10s. So we have a lot of the development team and senior team who are on those projects working on this project. In particular led by Ian Bell, but there's also other people working on the physics or the publishing side or the game direction side who worked on those previous projects in some form or another, whether that was Blimey Games or Slightly Bad Studios or other derivations of that team. And so this title was going to be GTR Revival initially, harking back to GTR Revival, but then has been renamed thanks to a partnership with Giant Software as the publisher and, I believe, partial financial backer, or maybe full backer, for this project, who are known for the Farming Simulator series.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's an interesting amalgamation of bits of GTR content with some Project CARS feelings, and obviously it's a new franchise, but we're not going to go into all of that in this video because we've already touched upon it on the website and the Traction YouTube channel. You can go and check out our existing video and, of course, articles over on the website. But we've got this new information today. We're going to come on to career mode stuff in a little bit, and also some other things we've spotted along the way. But as you say, Tom, Farming Simulator, there's a lot of connections here with Farming Simulator, and a big part of the Farming Simulator community and what makes that game so special revolves around the world of modding. Now, modding, sim racing modding specifically on console, is not something that we have really seen properly. We've seen obviously a massive modding community on the likes of Assetto Corsa on PC, also R Factor 2, many other games, but I think Project Motor Racing coming to console, we've now finally had it properly confirmed what's going to be happening with modding, and it also leaves a lot of room for speculation as to what could happen with modding in the future as well.
Yeah, so just to be clear, for maybe those who might not be fully initiated, modding is a loose term for user-generated content. And on the Assetto Corsa example that you mentioned there, John, on PC, there's a million different websites and services and providers. Some are free, some are paid for, where you could just download and install that content, like a car or a track or even weather conditions, into the existing game and have fun. The challenge there is that some of it is, or most of it isn't, licensed in any way or therefore official, or there's also sometimes a lack of quality control. But it's also free, and the best will rise to the top. So, and it's open. I think what Giants are going to do here is what they've already done with Farming Simulator, which is, yeah, you can mod on PCs to your heart's content, so like you would with Assetto Corsa, but there is also a user-generated content portal, and they have an approval team to check the quality and also to check the legality of the mods. And because they have that in place, that means they can also release the mods onto Xbox and PlayStation consoles. So Farming Simulator already has mod or created environments or tractors, let's say, for Farming Simulator on the console devices. And also other games do it as well, not just Farming Simulator, things like SnowRunner. But there has to be that approval process in place. They've got all that. Now they're going to do it with sim racing. But I'm intrigued, John, how do you think it will work in a world of car licensing and track licensing, which seems to be ever more complicated and in some instances expensive?
Yeah, exactly. We know car licensing and track licensing is very difficult at the best of times, so it does make me wonder whether we're going to see mods using official manufacturer names that's actually been maybe pre-approved by manufacturers, whether they're going to be part of that approval process. I can imagine that would get a little bit messy pretty quickly. Or are we going to see, instead of a Porsche, an Orsp or something like that? Not quite, basically a facsimile of a famous car. I mean, that is something we've already seen confirmed in Project Motor Racing with regards to the circuits, because recently they announced Northampton, which is actually Silverstone, sort of. We haven't actually seen a full onboard lap yet, so we don't know exactly, but it's clearly intended to be a version of the Silverstone circuit, but not using the Silverstone name, which obviously heavily suggests it's to do with a lack of a licensing agreement there. So it's going to be interesting, Tom. I mean, we'll obviously talk a little bit about that as well, but there's also the whole thing of modding is not just about content, right? Modding could be many other facets of a game that can add to the user's experience.
Yes, true. They do say you can mod it in it whichever way you want, or words to that effect, I'm paraphrasing, in the press release. And so, yeah, it could be like grip levels, fuel consumption, the direction you drive around the track. You know, if you look at Assetto Corsa, there's some drift scenes, or there's also traffic weaving in No Hesi, for example, which are completely different to what it was necessarily designed for from the start. So it could be that people who want to be extra creative with something like this, with different game modes even, could work on Project Motor Racing. However, that's entirely reliant on the structure, the tools, and the approval processes or not, and also if people want to create for this game as opposed to other games that are already out there. So while the potential is endless, it's still reliant on people making it and being able to make it straightforward and wanting to do that. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get this endless stream of content. I mean, they actually talk about over 4 billion downloads of modded content for Farming Simulator so far, so lofty targets.
Yeah, and on the licensing front then, are you worried about the fact that we've seen the likes of Northampton instead of Silverstone? Because we've seen this in the past, right? With Project CARS series in particular, we've seen a kind of fictional version of Suzuka, for example, appear in the game.
Yeah.
I think it's Sakito, and it's not quite Suzuka as we know it, which for some people won't be an issue. It's kind of inspired by Suzuka. It's a way of getting it in the game without a license, but it's obviously also taken away from some of the immersion and the authenticity. So how do you feel about that?
Well, yes. I'm actually not too bothered about Northampton as a name. If we all know it's Silverstone, and it allows it to be in the game, because we saw Silverstone be tricky to license for other games, either not appearing or, in case of R-Factor 2, disappearing after some time,
Yeah.
which is not ideal. You don't want that. However, we haven't seen a full onboard lap of the layout. So is it going to be exactly the same? Because, like you say, the facsimile of Suzuka in Project CARS was slightly different in certain corners. So it does rob authenticity from the experience. And this is being billed as a super serious simulator. More to that later. So, yeah, in the middle. Not sure. We'll have to see how it works, right? If the track layouts are similar, we need more information. I did notice in the trailer, if you look very closely, there's a car selection area where you're buying a car. At top right, it says Author. Straight 4 Studios, next to Weight and Power and Torque. So, presumably, one interesting element about this particular modding system is it's going to be in the game, or part of it will be in the game itself. So presumably there's going to be a browser, or in the car list, approved mods just appear as if they're DLC or uploaded content by the developer, but actually it's the fans that are creating it. And they'll be to such a quality you won't be able to notice, hopefully. That's the ideal.
Yes, that's
so
the idea,
there's pros
right?
and cons, right?
Exactly. So yeah, we need to see more about that, but I think it's a starting point, and we kind of have something to look forward to now. Let's just see how it's implemented. I think we should maybe move on to talking a little bit about career mode, because we've seen a new trailer drop, Tom, and we've got a little bit more information about career mode. What were your initial impressions?
That I'm really glad it has a single player career, because we've seen some games like Le Mans Ultimate, for example, they're going to launch into version 1.0 without the single player career. That's going to come in 2026. And we have iRacing, which is a PC-only subscription service focused primarily on multiplayer, but it's been repeatedly touting over a couple of years now. We're going to have a career mode. So there is an appetite for that, even if the game is serious. So I'm happy with that. But second of all, it seems on the surface, and we haven't tried it, and we don't know the full details, a little less detailed or sprawling than some of the Project CARS games, that this game is sort of a derivation of. Oh no, well, Project CARS was a progenitor to this series, you could say.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, that, I think, because in many ways this feels like a Project CARS follower, I guess, but at the same time, it was always originally going to be a GTR follower. So there's this kind of strange mismatch. I wouldn't say mismatch, that's maybe not fair, but I feel like this game doesn't quite know which of the two it is. and that is trying to be something new, but they changed the name obviously from GTR Revival to GT Revival to Project Motor Racing, so the hints in the name Project, but the content is still very much GT focused and endurance focused. So that's where it goes differently from Project Cars for me. It looks like it's very much going to be a sports car and endurance racing simulator, and therefore the career mode you're going to be spending within one particular discipline, but within that there are different categories and championships, of course. So it isn't going to be like a new Project Cars career mode, I don't think. We've obviously got a big focus via the trailers on sponsorships and brand agreements and all that, and I think they're very much putting the focus on that as being the thing that keeps you coming back and the thing that gives you a challenge. It's deciding risk versus reward on sponsorships. It's being wise about your choices and whether or not you want to go for, say, take a risk and go for a championship win and risk losing all your money, or you want to kind of play it a bit more safe and just complete races to get money in. There was lots of interesting little details within the trailer as well that is going to give us a bit of a clue as to what this might look like.
Yes, I'm intrigued to try it. Just on the content element, yeah, you're right. Project Cars obviously had like karting and touring cars, and even the second one had rallycross. So that diverse nature of the content isn't here in this game yet, or maybe a future sequel or the modding will fill that gap. But certainly at launch, and in this career mode, maybe not. However, that's still plenty of car classes here to have a ladder. So we've got GT4 cars were shown for the first time. You've got the classic like NGT cars. You've got modern LMDHs, GT3s as well. So there is enough to play through, I think, in terms of a career mode. How it works in terms of, well, I believe every event is kind of open to you, but it's not really, because it limits you to the cash. You have to pay an entry fee. So quite like that. You have to pay an entry fee. You have to pay for damage, and you have to pay for travel, and you choose your base from either, I think it's North America, Europe, or Asia.
Yeah.
And where you are depends on what event you enter on. As I presume you have to pay more to travel to get there, which I quite like.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen in the trailer there, you mentioned like shots of fictional sponsors. We've actually seen these in screenshots previously and been wondering, what are these weird sponsors on these liveries? That's not real. And I think that was a teaser for the career mode. So I like the Formula One game career modes. You start from 3 different levels, so you can be rich or poor in the middle to start with. And then the world is your oyster, provided you can afford to enter. So you have to manage not just your travel, but your damage fees and your entry fees. And then there are 8 different sponsorship models. So one, for example, was rolling billboard, where you just receive a fee each race. Doesn't matter what you do, but you might get more if you're a competitive sponsorship model, where you're on a higher fee, but you have to finish on the podium. So there's also one called Aggressor. Maybe they want you to crash into people. Or there's also one Ambassador, which I'm not really sure about. We'll have to see how it plays out, where you get paid if you don't damage the car. So strange options there. Some real world options that are aping that as well. Let's see how that plays out in terms of the balance. That's the key. How much cash you get and how much you have to spend is going to be key to the success of this mode.
Yeah, I think it needs to be challenging, because it's very easy, on paper a mode like this sounds really immersive, and it sounds in some ways realistic, because you're managing your cash, and it's like, can I bring in sponsors? How much money can I get from a sponsor, and what do they want me to achieve? So as realistic as it can be to still make it gamified and enjoyable, right? But at the same time, I think I'm very cautious not to get too excited about it, because a system like this is cool, but how complex is it? Is it actually just as simple as we're seeing now in the trailer? And you're literally just playing through different championships, and it's easy to make the money, and you just be, as long as you drive around carefully and tick your objectives, you're going to move through the series. I don't want to get too excited about the depth of it, basically, is what I'm trying to say, but I like the sound of the fundamentals. I like the idea of jeopardy. I like the idea of spending your money wisely, and also, picking your level of objective to try and achieve. I did really also like the hardcore option, Tom, which I saw. So you can turn on hardcore mode. It means you can't restart your races, and your difficulty level's locked in. So if you can discover a good difficulty level before the career mode starts, and hope that the different categories and car classes are well balanced with the AI across different circuits, I think that's going to be a really enjoyable way of playing an immersive career mode with no second chances.
Yeah, I did notice the hardcore mode as well, and it said Project Motor Racing is best played in hardcore mode. So we'll have to see how that works out. Also, some of the car price variances were quite large. In the NGT category, there's one point where you can see like a Moser's almost twice as much as the Morgan. But they're supposedly a balanced performance within the same category. So they do talk at one point about I'm trying to look at my notes to find it now, sort of prestige. Yeah, a car has a prestige. So I'm wondering if you have to pay more up front, you might get back in terms of certain sponsorship deals. So that's also another area to look out for when we get a chance to try this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also some other things we spotted in the trailer beyond just the career mode. Little bits of content that we haven't seen before. We've obviously now seen the Zolder circuit. We've seen more shots of Northampton, although we still haven't seen a full lap, so we don't know exactly what it looks like. But we know it's Silverstone based. Maybe even a kind of classic, slightly older version of Silverstone. But let's wait and see. And you also spotted quite a lot of new cars in there as well, Tom.
Yeah, also, I mean, they've showed still images of Kyle Army, but now this is the first time I think we've seen movie footage of it.
Yeah.
And shout out to our video editor, Osley, who yesterday we had an article on the website. Ooh, it looks like Zolder from this teaser picture. It was. So 10 out of 10 for that. Well spotted. Some of the cars, GT4 car class has been confirmed here now for the first time. Completely logical. So there is the Audi R8 GT4, the Aston Martin Vantage GT4, and also the Mercedes-AMG GT4 spotted very briefly, which is the first Mercedes we've seen for this game so far. There's also another Aston Martin Vantage, the GT3 model, used extensively in this trailer, not to be confused with the GTE spec car, which is previously been announced as part of a pre-order pack for GTE cars. More information on our website. And then really, blink and you miss it, there is the Mazda MX-5 or Miata sort of one-make cup car, which could be a fantastic entry-level series.
Yeah, that did catch my eye because it's the first thing we've really seen that's moved away from sports car and endurance and prototypes. Bearing in mind as well, this being a kind of sports car endurance based game, you can still change the length of the races. For instance, in this career mode, we did see that confirmed as well. So it's not like you're just going to be locked into doing long races. Something like an MX-5, as you say, is a perfect starting point for a career mode if you're going for that kind of journeyman approach, where you start from the bottom and make your way up through the series. So I think that's great to see, and also potentially opens up the opportunity for more diversity within the car roster, and of course within the mods, but that's something we're still going to have to wait and see. I did also notice, Tom, series-wise as well, there were some kind of championship series previewed, because as part of the trailer it shows you what sort of races you'll be able to compete in. Some of the championships included the United States GT3 Series, UK GT3 Trophy, LMDH World Championship. Sounds vague and intriguing. But one thing I really... yeah, exactly. One thing I did like, though, was Group 5 Gauntlet Series. Now, does that mean we're going to get Group 5 as some pretty awesome historic sports car racing?
Yeah, the term Group 5 in real-world motorsport actually covers a wide gamut of different sorts of vehicles over many different decades, so it's hard to pinpoint, even though it's a clue, I think, exactly what vehicles that could be, because technically, like a Le Mans competing Porsche 917 is Group 5, but also I might think of Project CARS throwback to like the Ford Capri Zaxpeed or the BMW 2002 with those massive front bonnets and bumpers and big rear wings, and they were called Group 5 in the game. I went back to look at Project CARS just before recording to check that. So it could be something like this, but it hints at potentially more types of classic cars that we've not seen yet as we ramp up to release, so more to look at. And then some of the events, another interesting event was the Florida 300 and the historic Florida 300. So could that be Daytona's in Florida, right? So could it be a Daytona-based race, but without the license for the word Daytona? Maybe speculate too much. You could also say Homestead, Miami International Circuit, and Sebring are also in Florida as well. So.
And Osley said Walt Disney Speedway, which was the first ever IRL race in 1996. So you never know, but I doubt it. So yeah, we have all of that to look forward to and really get more details on. I also want to hear what you guys think of what you've seen today, what you've seen in general about Project Motor Racing. Are you excited? And what would you like to see more information about? Let us know down in the comments below, and we might even discuss it in a future video or podcast. In fact, we pretty much definitely will do. There were a couple of other things, Tom, that I noticed were not included or shown in the trailer, we still haven't seen any evidence of. One of those things is damage. We expect there to be some form of damage in this game, but we haven't seen, I don't believe, any firm evidence of this being the case yet. We did, however, see dirt build up on the car, so that's at least something, but yeah, no proper physical damage yet. I don't think we've also seen anything yet about multiplayer, but we know there is going to be multiplayer racing, so that's something else we need to hold our judgment on.
Yep. Yeah, there's been the Steam store once said it was crossplay, and then we didn't get confirmation, but it probably will be crossplay at some point. We don't really know. We want to know if there's a inbuilt ranking system and lobby system and on if that's across the consoles and PC as well. That'd be pivotal, I think. And we really would like to see this is a scratch-built physics engine. And some might say that it might be the team's first ever scratch-built physics system because their previous projects have all had hints of ISI motor in there. So we tried it and we were like, oh, this is really different. Took our time to get used to it. And then we thought, well, there's some weird quirks in there, but it has potential. I would love to try it again with a later build and see if it actually has built upon that or if we're still in that slightly odd spot. So as we get closer to release, that's a key thing, is to really see if the physics matches up to the claim, which was, here we go. It's high fidelity. No, hang on a minute. What do they call it? Unmatched handling realism.
Unmatched handling realism. Interesting.
Bold claim. Yep.
Yeah, because as you say, the first impression of it was, oh, this is cool, this is interesting, this is different, it's challenging, but I wouldn't be comparing it to the super hardcore Sims in terms of the physics. So let's see how much it's improved. We just got to wait and see. And you can, of course, find that out before the release date, because yes, we said the release date is going to be the 25th of November, which is very exciting, but there will be opportunities to play this game. We don't know what build of this game, whether it's going to be the final version or an early build like we've experienced in the past, but you are going to have an opportunity to get your hands on this game and give it a try if you're at specific events, Tom.
Yes, so the Sim Racing Expo, Giants has confirmed it would be there. Now that's in October. There is also 5% if you use the code TRAXION off the price of your ticket. So please visit our website or just use that code if you're planning on visit the Dortmund event in October. So that is before the game releases. So we expect it to be there. They've already confirmed that it will be at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK in July. There's FarmCon, which is a farming simulator event. You'll be able to try Project Motor Racing if you happen to go to there and watch people try and put hay in a building as quick as possible and whatever else happens at FarmCon. And Giants has always had a massive presence with Farming Simulator at Gamescom. So it's not confirmed, but we would expect there to be something Project Motor Racing there. That's in August, again in Germany. And then remotely, there is a factory driver program, which we had an interview about on the Traxion website. So please check that out to read about that program. It's not a beta because you have to, well, it kind of is. It's going to be before it releases, but you have to apply and be approved to try it based on your previous gaming experience across a wide gamut of video games and simulations. And that'll be with a feedback system to try and improve it before launch. We expect that to be opened up soon, but we don't know when at the time of recording.
Yeah, we really do hope it's opened up soon because the release date is going to come in very quickly. And obviously, yeah, I'm excited. I think you're excited as well, Tom, but we want to see more before
Intrigued.
Yeah, I think we want to see more and try more before we pass any final judgment. And again, I reiterate, we want to hear from you guys. What do you think of what you've seen so far? Let us know down in the comments below. And as always, keep an eye on the TraxionGG website on a daily basis for all of your latest racing game and sim racing news. And also subscribe to this Traxion YouTube channel so that you don't miss any future uploads. That's it from us today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.